All right, I'm going to go over some unit rate problems with fractions. These problems should go in your notebook, so make sure you just follow along. First problem, Jillian baked 2 batches of cupcakes in 1/4 of an hour. How many batches will she cook in 1 hour? All right, so I'm going to underline or circle the information from the problem. So Jillian baked two batches of cupcakes in 1/4 of an hour. So my two quantities are batches and hours. Now I'm going to figure out from the question what order to put them in. So the question says, how many batches will she cook in 1 hour? So I'm trying to find one of the hours, so I know my hour will go on the bottom. So I'm going to write my ratio out now. First, I'm going to just write the words. I know hour will be on the bottom and batches on the top. So now I'm going to look to my problem, and I see that Jillian baked 2 batches in 1/4 of an hour. So I'm going to fill in what I have from the problem. So 2 batches in 1/4 of an hour. And now I'm going to set up my other ratio in order to find my unit rate. So I know from the problem that I want to find how many batches she will cook in 1 hour. So I know I'll have hours, hours here and batches set up like this. So, and I'll put the 1 here. So I'm trying to find the unit rate for 1 hour. So I can look to get from 1/4 to 1 hour. I know I divide by 1/4. So whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top. So I'm going to divide by 1/4 on the bottom. So I need to divide by 1/4 on the top. So now my problem really is 2 divided by 1/4. So I'm going to write that up here. So 2 divided by 1/4. Well, I'm dividing by a fraction, so I'm going to put the 2 over 1, and now do keep, change, and flip. So keep the 2 over 1, change this to multiplication, and flip my 1/4 to 4 over 1. So then that will equal, 8 over 1, or 8 batches in 1 hour. So my answer to my problem is, how many batches will she cook in 1 hour? 8 batches. So the answer is 8 batches in 1 hour. And that makes sense when you think about it, because if she is taking her 1/4 of an hour to make 2 batches, then in a half an hour she can make 4 batches, 3/4 of an hour, another 2 batches, so that would be 6 batches, and then a whole hour, 8 batches. All right, problem 2 looks exactly the same, but the question at the bottom is different. So Jillian baked 2 batches of cupcakes in 1/4 of an hour. So again, we have batches, 2 batches of cupcakes in 1/4 of an hour. So, and I know that's messy, but you circle it on yours and you can do a neater job. So the question, though, is how long did it take to bake 1 batch? So I know the unit rate I'm finding is batches because it says 1 batch. So I'm going to set my ratio up differently in this problem, even though the first part of the problem is the same. So my ratios, I know I'm going to have batches on the bottom. So batches is going to be on the bottom this time, and hours is going to be on the top. So I look for my two different quantities. I know I have Jillian baked 2 batches of cupcakes in 1/4 of an hour. So I have batches and hours. So now I'm going to fill in what I have from the problem. So again, she baked 2 batches in 1/4 of an hour. But now 1/4 of an hour is on top, 2 batches on the bottom. And I know that my question set says that I need to find out how long did it take her to bake 1 batch. So I'm going to set that up as my other ratio in order to find out how many hours did it take her to make 1 batch. Whatever you're finding how much or how many of would go on top. So now I can figure out my problem. So to get from 2 batches to 1 batch, I just divide by 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So if I am dividing by 2 to get to 1 batch, then I would divide the top by 2. So our problem is really 1/4 of an hour divided by 2 would give us how many hours it would take to make 1 batch. So I'm going to do that up here. 1/4 divided by 2, which I'm going to put that as 2 over 1. Now keep 1/4, change to multiplication, and flip to 1/2. So now 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 2 is 8. And our answer goes right here, and it would be 1/8 of an hour. It would take her to make 1 batch. So our answer to this problem would be 1/8 of an hour. All right, the third problem I'm really going to try to write neater. Hannah completed 1/5 of a worksheet in 1/4 of an hour. So I would underline those quantities. So 1/5 of a worksheet and 1/4 of an hour. So worksheet and hours are the 2 quantities that are going to make up our ratio. Now let's see which one goes on top or which one goes on bottom. So how much of a worksheet will she complete in 1 hour? So I'm finding 1 of hours, so hours is going to go on the bottom. So I'm going to write hours on the bottom of our ratio and worksheet. So we're going to try to find out, K-S-H-E-E-T, how much of a worksheet she can complete in 1 hour. But first I'm going to set up the information we have in the problem. So Hannah can complete 1/5 of a worksheet in 1/4 of an hour. So how much of a worksheet? So my other ratio will be to try to find my unit rate, which the question is asking. So how much of a worksheet can she complete in 1 hour? So this is our setup. And now we're going to try to find out how much of a worksheet she completes in 1 hour by using our equivalent ratios, kind of like equivalent fractions to figure it out. So how do I get from 1/4 to 1? Well, by division or multiplication. Well, I can divide 1/4 by 1/4 to get to 1. So I'm going to do that, divide by 1/4. And then whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top to try to get an equivalent ratio. So I'm going to divide the top of the ratio by 1/4. So 1/5 divided by 1/4 will end up giving us our answer here. So I'm going to do that work on the top here. So 1/5 divided by 1/4. Well, that is keep, change, and flip. So our answer is 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 1 is 5. And that would be 4/5. So that would go right here. So Hannah would complete 4/5 of her worksheet in 1 hour. And that is our answer to the problem. So problem number 4 looks exactly the same on the top, but the question is different. So it will make us set up our ratios a little bit different. So Hannah completed 1/5 of a worksheet, 1/5 of a worksheet in 1/4 of an hour. So how long will it take? Now I'm going to read the question to figure out how I set up my ratios. How long will it take her to finish one worksheet? Well, if we're finding one of the worksheets and we don't know how long it will take her, well, whatever I'm trying to find out goes on top, and what I'm trying to find one of goes on the bottom. So I will have I'm going to set up my ratios, worksheet goes on the bottom because I'm trying to find one of it, and then how long, and we're measuring that in hours, so hours goes on top. And I know I'm going to have another ratio that I'm trying to find so I'm trying to find my unit rate of one worksheet. And hours would be on the top of this ratio too. All right, so I'm going to fill in what I have from the problem. So it says Hannah completed 1/5 of a worksheet. So that actually goes right, let me scoot this over a little bit. That actually goes right here. So 1/5 of a worksheet. 1/5 goes right here. And in 1/4 of an hour. So 1/4 goes on top. 1/4. So now I can use that information to figure out my unit rate. So to get from 1/5 to 1, I would have to divide by 1/5, because 1/5 divided by 1/5 would equal 1. So I'm going to divide by 1/5 in order to get 1. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. So I'm dividing by 1/5. So 1/4 divided by 1/5 would give me what my hours for one worksheet would be. So I'm going to do that up at the top. 1/4 divided by 1/5 is really keep, change, and flip. So 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. And now I actually have to change that into a mixed number. So how many times does 4 go into 5? Well, it goes in 1 time. And 5 minus 4 would be 1. So I have 1 left over, and I put that over the 4. So really, my unit rate ratio is I can complete one worksheet in 1/4 of an hour. So it will take me 1/4 of an hour to finish one worksheet. So that is my answer. How long will it take her to finish one worksheet? 1/4 of an hour.